call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, today we will take a look at the standard version of Hush Superman. Now, we already did receive the gold label version that was Heat Vision Superman, and also he had like the poison ivy sort of ivy around him. Now, it took me a while to figure out where I had left this ivy, but yes, the original release had Heat Vision eyes, was a gold label figure, and he came with some plant material that is representative of the way he was in the Hush comic book. So now this is a more standard, just regular Superman based on the same Hush design. Now he does look pretty powerful in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with a clear McFarlane flight stand. Now, these are very rare to come across now from McFarlane. So when you do get these, it is really appreciated. We'll hold on to that. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have a sort of artist sketch version of Hush Superman. Pretty sure this is Jim Lee art. And on the back, you do have some information. Pretty sweet. We'll add this to the collection. Now, he does come with some accessories, which is 2 alternate flight hands. Now, of course, this is appreciated. We didn't get any other accessories, but 2 flight hands and 2 fisted hands are pretty much standard for a Superman release. Pretty nice. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at the figure. Now, first off, I won't go too much into detail with the articulation because, of course, this is the same infected body that we have received before. So no big reason to delve into all of that. But we will take a look at him and see what I like about him and what I don't. And then we will compare him to a bunch of other Supermans from McFarlane. Now, basically here, you have the traditional color scheme, that sort of bright red with a nice sunny yellow, and then not light, but also not dark blue. It's more just in the middle, just a sort of classic Superman blue. So color-wise, this is pretty much as close as you're going to get to a classic Superman color scheme. But for, first impressions, looks pretty good. I pretty much knew what I was getting into when I was going to pick this figure up because nothing great, nothing super, but it is another Superman to add to the collection. Now, one thing I will bring up is you got the classic S there on the front with the nice colors. We have received this S before, but it's had different, tones of blue or even metallic. But this time it is just your standard traditional shield. And you have the trunks, of course, in those same yellow and red classic colors. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Now, I have to be honest with you, not a big fan of the head sculpt when I saw it in the promo pictures, but now having it in hand, it does grow on you. Sort of stern comic book version of Superman, has that square jaw, has the flowing hair. Now, it's not your traditional S curl on the hair, but it does have a little curl to it. Now, it is very reminiscent of the Jim Lee style of artwork, which is nice. And the only other big thing you could tell right away is the skin tone is a little bit pale. I'd be a little bit happier if it was more flesh with a little more rosy tone. But like I said, it is good to have different versions of Superman to put with different versions of Batman or into different situations for photos and stuff like that. So I'm actually really happy to have this guy. Although it is nothing spectacular, he is a pretty nice addition to the Superman collection. Here's crossing our fingers and hoping that that rumored classic Superman that's coming out will finally take us away from the infected body and give us a brand new Superman body. But don't get your hopes up. We know McFarlane has basically been, doing Superman dirty from the beginning, but it is what it is. Now you do have the same articulation. He can look down, can look up really well for flight poses. You got right to left, and then you could still tilt his head for some attitude. But it's always nice to have that option. Standard articulation that he's had, with this body, double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, nice movement at the waist, get him in some flight poses. So he is standard for what we come to receive from McFarlane. Now, you can pop off his fist and then pop in his flight hand pretty simply, which is nice that McFarlane has finally been getting a little bit better and a little bit more consistent in having alternate hands that are easy to swap in and out. Could use that flight hand pretty nicely. But of course, I prefer my Superman with fists. Cool, okay. So, I mean, like I said, he does have the yellow S on the back, which isn't really a bright yellow. It's more kind of like a golden tone of yellow, but that's fine. At least he has it, because a lot of the other Supermans we have received from McFarlane pretty much omit that yellow S. So I'm happy with him. Now let's go ahead and compare him to some previously released Superman. Now, first up, we do have the gold label Hush, which basically they're mirror images of each other, except for the head sculpt. Even the skin tone is the same. The reds and blues are basically the same. It's really hard to get any kind of difference from them as far as I could tell. Maybe a slight shade difference, but I really doubt it. They basically are the same figure, just with an alt head, which is perfect for me because I like when a different head comes with a body so that I can display it on my shelf. So if you ever want to do photos or anything, you do not have to swap heads. You can have one stand in with the regular eyes and then swap them out with the heat vision eyes without having to pop heads, which can get a little bit tedious at times. Now let's go old school and go ahead and bring out the Superman 1000. We'll see how he looks compared to this Hush Batman. Now, right away, the first thing you could see is the body difference, the composition. This Hush Superman is really more broad and muscular, while the Superman 1000 is a little bit more of a classic and lean look. Also has some different design choices or executed choices that make him look a little bit more streamlined, while the Hush Superman looks a little bit more bulky and has more joints. So it's all in your personal preference what you prefer, a more or less muscular, leaner Superman, or a thick, bulky, more muscular style Superman, which it's always good, as I keep saying, to have different choices. Plus, the head sculpt on the Superman 1000 gives you that different feel, like a classic feel, while the Hush gives you a more comic book feel to him. Completely different capes. They did not put the yellow S on the back of the 1000, which is a crime against humanity, but we will persevere. Now, coming up next, this is pretty funny because this is a figure that a lot of people dislike. But once I raised up the head, repositioned the cheeks, this is one of my favorite Superman figures. Now, this basically is a rebirth Superman, but he's a little bit, more happy. And this is like the smiling version of Superman. Once you raise the head up a little bit, it actually poses really well and looks really good. Now, the capes are completely different. This smiling Superman, of course, is a little bit more of a darker blue, and also the rebirth design of the character. Once again, no yellow S in the back, but I'm not even sure if Rebirth has the yellow S. And of course, the head sculpt on this one is a little bit of an acquired taste. So these two are two completely different ends of the spectrum on Superman looks and design, but I do have a place in my heart for each one of these. Really happy to have them in the collection, actually. Now let's go a little bit more recent, but still a little bit more into the past, and that is the first appearance Superman. Now these two together actually share the same body buck, so they are a little bit more the same size, although that old school Superman should have been a little bit less ripped, because back in the day they were more just mass and not really muscle tone, but it does kind of work for that barrel chested look of the first appearance of Superman. Now, these two actually do share the same cape, but the first appearance is missing the yellow shield on the back. I actually, right now, do have an extra one of these first appearance Superman, and I kind of do have some little devious plans for a complete repaint and redesign for a custom using this first appearance Superman. So that'll be in the future when I actually get that done. So these two, once again, are from different eras of Superman's lore. But as you can see, we're kind of building a pretty big Superman army here, which is always awesome. Now, finally, I did save the best for last. And of course, that is going to be my definitive Superman. Now, this guy is pretty good. I mean, if you want to get a definitive Superman that hits all the keynotes and has basically everything you would want from a classic definitive Superman, it is right here in my custom. Now, put these two guys together, you could see he is muscular, but he's not as wide and thick as the Hush Superman. He does use the Superman 1000 head sculpt, but I did tone down the shades a little bit to match a little bit more of the skin tone that I used. Now he actually uses the metallic shield from the Superman 1000, and this was a real passion project for me. A lot of hours, a lot of time to get this Superman made. No lines in the suit, a clean, classic suited Superman, and he is also tall enough to actually match up with your Hush Batman. They're exactly the same height, and people could say Superman's a little taller, but actually, Superman is 6'3", Batman is 6'2". So basically, the same height, 1 inch, is not going to make that much of a difference. So you have different choices of Superman to use in different figure photography, displays, stop motion, anything you want to do. It's up to the limits of your imagination, and hopefully there are no limits. So this figure's pretty cool. He's a cool addition to the collection. You can pose him up and get him in different, flight poses. Also, he is going to look awesome up there on the shelf next to the gold label version of Hush Superman. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.